Hello, this is a brief assessment of two upright pianos that have just come into stock, so I'm assessing them to see what sort of work needs doing. This is a Richard Lipp upright piano made in about 1904, and next to it we have a American Steinway upright piano made in 1978. As Richard Lipp is fortunate to have its original sconces, we can of course take those off if you don't want them, and a lot of people don't want the sconces on the piano, but obviously they were put there so that the candles would be further out than the music, and then the light would shine onto the music. It's 1904, so early days for electricity, but really important to have candlesticks. Zeroing in on the keys, there are 85 notes on Richard Lipp's of this age. Bear that in mind if you want an 88 note piano, though by far the majority of people are quite happy with 85 keys. You can see here where one of them's been come off and been stuck back on, but it's not too serious. We can improve that slightly, and the slightly yellowing, we can improve that as well. I contrast that with the Steinway. The Steinway here has doesn't have ivory keys, obviously 1978, and you wouldn't expect that. The Steinway is quite different from an English Steinway, this American Steinway. I'll look at one or two of the differences. We'll have a quick comparison with the German Steinway, which is next door. One typical difference with the American Steinway is the squareness of it here, the squareness of the full, squareness of the sides here. That nearly always means it's an American Steinway. You can see this front. Also, you don't get this kind of thing on a European Steinway, as far as I know. This pulls out, because if you put this up here, the music stand, you think, how on earth am I going to put the music on it? And of course, you have to pull this panel out, put the fall behind this panel, and then we'll have a look in a second, as it was before. So now we put the fall behind the panel, behind here. So now the music stand, obviously the music fits very nicely, so it's a good design. This is a German Steinway that we have in stock. I have another video of this. So it's very different looking. This is older piano anyway, 1922, has been refinished. And as you can see, the fall there, it is a rounded fall. So that's a key sign of whether it's likely to be German or American. Back to the American Steinway. One thing I noticed straight away is these pedals are too high. By the way, the right hand pedal indicates how much wear the piano's had. There's plenty of other videos showing this too. Not excessive, but in 1978 you wouldn't expect that for a piano of that age. But the pedals are far too high. They're about 9 centimetres off the floor, which is very uncomfortable for playing, and that's because someone's changed the casters here. They're not the original. They need to come down by at least 2 centimetres in order for the pedals to feel comfortable. And there's going to be plenty of legroom still. There's plenty of legroom on this piano. As extra, my knees come up to about there, so certainly for me. And the keyboard's not incredibly high, but some pianos have more legroom than that, but that's generally pretty good. There's plenty of legroom on this lip, and the pedals are thankfully very angled as well, angled downwards, which is a very good, very useful thing. They've thought a lot about the piano. This Richard Lipp is they're one of the very best makers I've mentioned before, and if you're in the trade you'll know how wonderful they are. Both pianos need cosmetic work on the outside, which we'll obviously can do as much or as little as you want, according to how much you want to spend on the piano. But just zeroing in on the mechanics. So this Lipp apparently is brought over from Dublin originally, and it's been reconditioned in the 1980s. And these hammers are replacement. They're not replacement. They're recovered hammers. There's debate about which is best. Recovering can give wonderful results. You can see they're recovered by the slight untidiness of the end here. If it was new hammers, they wouldn't have all those marks, these knife marks and so on, and slightly uneven felts there. But there's not been much use since it's been recovered, as we can see here. Now, the return tapes here have also been replaced, and well done. They all pull off at roughly the same time, as we can see when we press the soft pedal. They're pulling off roughly together. Perhaps a little bit of adjustment to do there. Let's have a look at the damping. The damping is not pulling off enough at all. There's a broken bass string here, so as we're looking at it, there are things to do. That is a nuisance, because to match in a bass string is difficult. Sometimes we change both of these two if there's 2 per note. You can hear it sounds a bit thinner. Not very pure, but thin sound. So it's not disastrous, but obviously we're going to do something about that. And the bottom bass here is a bit tubby. You can twist the string and get more tone out of it usually. You'll have to try that, see if it works. Now these are original strings. You can tell they're original tuning pins, so they're very loose. On the older pianos, very often they use very small pins, which is very useful because if you want to restore, put bigger pins in, you can easily do that. This Steinway has much bigger pins originally, the original pins. That's a shame really, because if you wanted to restore the piano, change the tuning pins, you wouldn't have much option. But obviously on a 1978 Steinway, they're very, very tight anyway. Going back to the lip, there's very little regulation to do, not much, no lost motion, so that was obviously taken care of in the 1980s. And the action is slightly light touch on this piano, which suits a lot of people. Obviously, to alter that, we'd have to either put new hammers on or reweight the keys. But it feels very, very nice to me. And the tone is good, very much mellower, much more mellow than the Steinways, we'll hear in a minute. By the way, the dampers here go right up to, that's top G sharp, so that's a huge number of, very large number of dampers, like on the German Steinways. This American Steinway has less dampers, up to E here, and so there are 4 more dampers on the German Steinways than this lip. This American Steinway, the dampers pull off far too far. We won't look at the whole action here because I can assure you it's in typical good condition for it's 1978, so we won't need to do. We do need to do a little bit of regulation, but it's not too bad. But the dampers are pulling off too much with the pedal, and that's causing the springs of the dampers to wear too much, and also it's making a bit more noise, so they should come off to about there really. And this piano is a much brighter sound, like a typical modern piano. It's a very, very nice sound actually. Sounds very different from the older German Steinways, which are much more mellow, but a pleasant sound. And very, very nice action, very, very well controlled action. The lip is far more mellow, but that was the taste in those days. Very, very pleasant, very rich, tremendous. If you're a piano tuner, you know how excellent the tone of these pianos is. So that's a very quick assessment of these 2 pianos. Sorry it's not longer, but I haven't got any more time. But this lip is, I've talked about lips in many other videos, so I won't say too many superlatives, except that it's such a high quality upright piano. Needs restoration work. We could fully restore the whole piano, of course, but we don't tend to do that when a piano is already very, very good. We can just recondition it. If a piano is in an absolute mess, then we'll fully restore it. Quite a mellow sound. Slightly lighter touch than average. Now the Steinway, very much like a modern piano, but a very high quality one. And really it's as good as you'd expect a Steinway to be in all areas. Slightly different sound from a German Steinway, or quite a lot different really. I haven't got a modern German Steinway to compare it with at the moment. Certainly the old German Steinways are far more mellow, and of course the taller pianos have a bigger sound. This is only 119 centimetres high and should be lowered actually because the casters are too high, so it'll be 117 when we finish with that. But the piano, we're very happy to guarantee this piano and both of them for 10 years. They're both excellent instruments. Thank you very much for listening.